Hello and welcome to another 2019 NFL Draft Scouting Report video from Pigskin Prodigies. I'm Dan Musso, and today I'm going to be breaking down LSU cornerback Greedy Williams, one of the top cornerback prospects in the upcoming NFL Draft, and the next player in a long lineage of great LSU defensive backs. So let's break down some of the specific traits that make Greedy one of the premier cornerback prospects in the 2019 NFL Draft. Obviously, the first thing that you look for with cornerback prospects is coverage ability and coverage skills, and for Greedy Williams, he is at his best in press and off-man coverage. In man coverage, Greedy Williams generally does a pretty good job of staying in phase with receivers, particularly on underneath and intermediate routes, but he also has the speed to run with receivers on vertical routes as well. However, that being said, I think that Greedy at times does struggle with allowing separation at the top of routes, particularly on vertical routes, and that's one of my biggest areas for concern with his game in his current state. As far as zone coverage, Greedy Williams is fairly inconsistent. I think that his instincts are a little underdeveloped, and that's probably because he wasn't asked to play a lot of zone coverage at LSU. So at times I think his reactions are a little delayed, and he gets late breaks on the ball and can allow some easy completions underneath because his instincts and reaction time aren't where they need to be in zone coverage just yet. So I think that that's one area where he can improve in the NFL, though he should probably be drafted by a team that uses more man-to-man coverage so that they can get the most out of his skill set. Another note on coverage ability is that Greedy sometimes lets receivers get away from him on broken plays, so that's more of an effort thing. I think he just needs to show better effort with staying on receivers, even on broken plays, and making sure that he follows them through the whistle. In terms of agility and technique, Greedy Williams is above average in both categories. I think that he displays good mirror and match footwork to stay with receivers out of their releases. He's got a smooth and efficient back pedal, doesn't waste any steps, and does a good job of staying low in his back pedal to maximize change of direction. And with that change of direction, he displays fluid hips to turn and run with receivers, and that allows him to match up with just about any receiver that you might assign him to, because he's got the change of direction to stay with those shiftier receivers that you might see in the slot, but he also has the size and play strength to match up with those bigger, more physical receivers that he'll see on the perimeter. In terms of press coverage technique, Greedy Williams made major strides from first year starting to second year starting this past year. In 2017, Williams was very susceptible to double moves at the line of scrimmage, and oftentimes he would flip his hips too early and allow receivers to get clean inside releases and gain early separation on him. I would say, after viewing the 2018 film, that was still a little bit of an issue, but not nearly as prevalent as it was in his redshirt freshman tape. So I would still list it as a concern, but it's an area that he's improved on significantly. Although it is one that still showed up from time to time in his last year of film, so still a little bit of concern and something that he could still continue to improve on. Another area where Greedy could improve with his technique is being less handsy at the top of routes. As I mentioned earlier, sometimes Greedy can allow receivers to get a step on him down the field, and as a result of that, he'll panic at times and grab receivers, which can lead to back-breaking pass interference penalties. So that's just another area that'll have to clean up upon transitioning to the next level. In terms of speed and recovery burst, Greedy Williams appears to be above average. I think that even though he does allow receivers to get a step on him down the field, I think that's more of an effort issue. I think he just kind of needs to stay focused and make sure that he tracks receivers all the way down the field rather than thinking that he's got them covered and that the ball won't be arriving late. So I think he just needs to show more consistent effort when defending those vertical routes down the field, because it looks like he has enough speed to keep up with receivers on those vertical routes. Another note on speed and recovery burst is quick and close ability. Williams has good quick and close ability to be able to react quickly to passes that are thrown into his general area and to be able to disrupt those passes. So getting into the next area that I look for when evaluating cornerback prospects, and that is mental processing, which is basically a combination of awareness, instincts, and play recognition. For Greedy Williams, I think he has good route recognition and does a good job of feeling route breaks, and that allows him to limit separation in man coverage. I already talked about it with zone coverage, but Greedy Williams can be a little late with his reactions and get late breaks on the ball, which allows passes to be completed underneath. Also with zone coverage, I think that at times he can get confused when there's overlapping routes in his zone. I think he doesn't always know who to pick up, so that's another area where he'll need development if he wants to become a better zone coverage corner. In terms of ball tracking, I think he struggles occasionally to find the ball down the field, but generally does a good job of finding the ball after staying in phase with receivers on those shorter and intermediate routes. But that's not a major issue. I think it definitely improved from his freshman year to his sophomore year, but just something to note. In terms of ball skills and playmaking ability, Greedy Williams is pretty impressive. He's got very good ball skills and yielded good ball production over the past 2 seasons with 8 interceptions and 19 passes defended over that time. I already talked about his ability to find the football in short and intermediate routes, and that's just one thing that contributes to his ball skills and playmaking ability. Another thing that Greedy does well with his playmaking is he does a good job of playing the ball through the receiver's hands and playing around the receivers without interfering with them, and using that length to his advantage to disrupt those throwing lanes. And to get into run support and tackling, which is more of a secondary trait that I look for in cornerback prospects, Greedy Williams is subpar, I would say. Not as good as you'd like to see from an effort and tackling standpoint. As a run defender, he's oftentimes passive and doesn't really like to chase plays from the backside and doesn't really show much urgency with trying to get off blocks when plays are run at him or screens come to his side of the field. Also, as a tackler, he is not a wrap-up tackler, not very technically sound. Generally just tries to chop down runners from below the knees just by diving at their ankles, and because of that he misses way too many tackles, so that's one of the biggest areas that I'll need to clean up in order to live up to his fullest potential in the NFL. In terms of size and physical traits, I kind of made mention of it earlier, but Greedy Williams has prototypical height and length for his position, and because of that length and height, he can increase the margin for error with technique because he's got those long arms to help him cover ground, and also the speed that he has helps him cover ground as well and make up for mistakes. At a listed 6'2", approximately 182 pounds, he has room to add muscle mass and more functional strength. I think his play strength is solid currently, but he could struggle with some of the stronger receivers in the NFL if he doesn't continue to get stronger. So that's a little bit of a concern, I would say, for him going into the NFL. With his size and with his short area quickness and agility, Greedy has the ability to cover slot receivers, although he's probably better suited to play outside because of his size, and because he's a pretty poor tackler, you probably wouldn't want him playing that nickel spot full time. So he's probably a better projection as an outside cornerback, in my opinion. In terms of red flags, I really couldn't find any. Greedy hasn't really missed any significant time due to injury in his college career, and I wasn't able to find any character concerns on him, so currently I would say there's no real red flags. Okay, to kind of sum up my thoughts on Greedy Williams, I think that he's one of the top cornerback prospects in this draft class, most definitely. I have him graded as a mid-first round grade currently, and think he should probably be a top 15 pick in this draft. I think that with a year or two of development, he could be a Pro Bowler and probably be one of the top cornerbacks in the league. In terms of an NFL comparison, I liken him to Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie back in his prime, which was a few years ago now, or I guess probably several years ago more accurately, because they are similar, I think, in terms of size, man coverage ability, athleticism, and they're not the best tacklers, but they make up for it with their coverage ability. With scheme fit, I kind of talked about that a little bit earlier, but I think Greedy Williams is more of an outside man coverage cornerback, So he'd be perfect for a team that likes to run a lot of press or off-man coverage, although you probably don't want him in a zone-heavy scheme, especially if you're drafting him really high. So those are my final thoughts on Greedy Williams. Thank you for taking the time to listen and watch this video, and I hope you'll stay tuned for more draft content that I'll be rolling out over the next few months.